Hello ladies, I'm Mrs. Sherman from the Home Living blog. I do not have comments on my YouTube videos because I'd like you to go over to my blog, for which I'll leave a link, and you can leave a comment there. Also, my PayPal is over there if you feel like contributing. And I would like to let you know, if you're new here, that these are videos that I'm preparing as homemaker support. So if you have something you need to do, clean the fridge, uh, work in the laundry room, sweep, load the dishwasher, unload the dishwasher, make a bed, fold clothes, whatever it is, maybe you'd like to take your device with you and listen for a little while as I talk and give you some ideas, maybe even tell you some stories about the home. And there isn't anything to watch here. I'm not going to be doing anything. I often have wanted something to listen to while I do housework where I don't have to pay attention to how something is being made or anything like that. I just like to listen. And so I hope that this will give you some inspiration as well as something to listen to while you work. And so at the beginning of the day, I start out, and please do not do things just because I do them. It might not be for you. Everybody's different. I start out, and people always ask me about my cosmetics, so I will leave pictures and tell you what they are on the blog. What I'm wearing today on my skin begins with a moisturizer that I make out of breaking open a vitamin E capsule and mixing it with a little bit of grapeseed oil. Now you can use anything you want that you have in your kitchen. Grapeseed oil I keep in the fridge because it tends to go rancid when it's kept in a cabinet. So I rub that together and try not to get it too much, not too oily, but a vitamin E capsule is sticky and it will not spread on your skin. So don't put that directly on your skin. You have to mix it with something. So I just mix it in the palm of my hand. I put it all over my face. And one of the things about and I just want to stop and remind you not to sit here and watch me. Go and find something to do. You need to clean out a bookshelf. You need to sort through a box of papers, whatever you have to do. And I wanted to tell you that I mix this moisturizer up in my hand and use it all over my face. Whereas if you buy a bottle of moisturizer, it always says, spread on the face, avoiding the eye area. Well, when you use the vitamin E capsule and the grapeseed oil or avocado oil or whatever, you can put it over your eyelids, you can put it under your eyes, you can put it all over, and it doesn't harm at all. And it works for me. It may not work for you. Now today I got it on a little bit too shiny, too oily. So what I did after I put my base makeup on, which by the way, everything that I have on my face today is Wet n Wild from the Dollar Tree. And one of the things that I've noticed is if you have a good barrier as a moisturizer or something, maybe you don't need moisturizer, but you put something under on your skin that provides a barrier between your skin and anything you want to add to it. I have a terrible problem with rosacea on my skin. As you can see, I'm red in certain areas, and I have a difficulty covering it. You see my nose and just all around in here. So I do wear makeup. But if you wear something on your skin that puts a barrier between you and the makeup, then I think it's really better for you, and it just gives it a nice place to land that's smooth. And then I put my moisturizer on, my handmade moisturizer, and I'll go outside for a walk after I'm dressed, of course. And I live in the country, so I like to see what's going on. I like to see first thing in the morning, and that cool, fresh air does wonders for my skin, and the makeup goes on better after I've been outside in the cool air. So I like to walk around, see what's going on, what flowers are blooming, what's changing, how the season is changing. And there's a rabbit out there that sometimes I kind of comes out to greet me and then runs back, but I enjoy that. I like to see these creatures around here, and I like to come back in and finish taking care of my appearance. And one of the reasons that I think homemakers ought to be paying special attention to their appearance is because of the way that it portrays you and your role. And I know people in the past have had kind of a negative attitude towards homemaking as a pastime, as a career, as a life's work, and don't kind of see it as a real important thing. But you can make it more important by the way you dress and by your appearance. And if you take care of your appearance, it sets your mood and it makes your house feel like you're in an elegant place. And you are the first lady of your house. I don't know how you would spell that out, but the first lady of the house, first lady of your house. And as first lady, you need to dress appropriately because your family sees you, and make life and every day special. Every day feel important. Every day is a celebration. If you start making your home into a place you love to be, that's neat and tidy and clean and beautiful, has nice smells, it has beauty in it all around it, and you make your best effort to make it a place you'd like to be, then you'll want to be in it, and everybody else will want to be in it, and you'll want to dress for it. So these support videos will help, I hope, for you to see how important it is when you're home to put it in a good light. You put your family in a good light. And I wanted to tell you today what I'm doing is wearing a handmade cotton dress. Is so soft, and the cotton is made by Waverly, and I bought it at Walmart last year, and it comes in all colors, and it's kind of a honeycomb print. And the little necklace I'm wearing, one of my granddaughters made for me out of clay, and it is a rose that goes with the color of this dress, and it's on a stretchy string. And I would rather wear this kind of jewelry than anything else. It's for me, a high-end kind of special, one-of-a-kind jewelry made for me. So, and I hardly know I have it on. I just love it, and you can't be allergic to it. It's just wonderful. So the first lady of the house, I guess that would be FLOTH, FLOTH. So did you know you were a floth? So dress above your circumstances. Don't look like you have just cleaned out the laundry room, or that you've just cleaned the bathtub. Be elegant. Where else are you going to wear these clothes? You know, and I know that back in the 1950s, women did wear dresses in the home. I know there have been some people who have discounted that and said that wasn't true, but they did care. They did care what they wore. And one of the things I want to tell you is, of course, you're going to have to go out. You'll be right in the middle of cleaning, and you'll realize you're out of something. You write that down on a list, and by the middle of the day, you'll realize you have to go and get something. And I would really strongly suggest that you dress well to go out, and look in the mirror before you leave, and look behind you. Look at what people are going to see as you walk past. Because I'm sorry to say that women in their choice of clothing it's not inspiring, and we should be portraying ourselves as homemakers as the most elegant, the most like the first lady of the house, and what all that entails. So the ability to enjoy the home means turning it into something where you would like to be. Where would you like to be? What would you like to have happen? Why do we like to go out and go into a place that has a bakery and a place to get coffee and a florist area and then the fresh food area? Why do we like it? It's the color, it's the scent, it's the light, it's the feeling of celebration. And you can translate a lot of this into your own home, and you can make it a happy place. And so clothing choice, and then homemaking choice, you can control these things. These are things you can control in the world. You can't control the world stage. You cannot control what world leaders are doing. You cannot control the state of the world. That news media will make you depressed if you could start worrying about that. What you really need to worry about is what you can do. You can control what your house looks like. You control what you look like. And it's not all visual. It's also the feeling that you get, the atmosphere that you have. It's the standards and the values that you're trying to portray. You know, even when you clean off your coffee table, you leave books and magazines there that you want others to be edified by, and to influence their thinking, because you are a great influence. But you can improve the home, you can improve your own appearance. And now let's talk about your attitude in conversation. And one of the reasons that I have not been here in over a week is that, now if you remember, the last time I skipped a week and I did not come back and talk for a while, my excuse was I was waiting to get thinner, 10 pounds thinner, 10 years younger, and better looking. Well, of course, the longer I waited, the worse, worse it got. Well, this time I was waiting to get all these notes organized. You know, I have these little stick-it notes, and I'll write down 1 or 2 words and I'll stick it in here. I think, oh, I'm going to get that all written out. Well, that didn't happen because, of course, right now my keyboard does not work. And that's why I'm doing videos. We are getting that straightened out. It's just going to take some time. And I wanted all these in order, and I waited 8 days, and there was always something else to do. And then I had company, and I had my ladies' Bible class, and I could see this was just going to get, I was going to get deeper and deeper into this, so it didn't happen. So I was waiting to get more organized, to write a better script, and to have all my ducks in a row. It didn't happen, so I'm here again talking. So I want to talk a little bit about the amount of negative thinking we do that really slows us down. If you really want to succeed in the home and with your family, you can't have a negative attitude, a sourpuss attitude. And we all know what that is if you've ever been around people that you just want to share ideas with, and they say things like, well, that's not so in all cases. Well, that doesn't always work. Well, that isn't true. Well, that isn't, and they constantly put down what you're saying. Doesn't mean that you're not open to new ideas, but maybe you just want to talk about ideas and how to fix things and how to explore why things happen or how things happen, or with someone else. My experience is, if you leave others uplifted and you say things that actually give them energy, they're going to give you energy back, and you're going to feel better about yourself. But if you're always talking down, you're going to be depressed. If you're always going to say, I can't get to it, I just can't seem to get ahead, I can't seem to do this, the word can't. You know, we're Americans here, and I know there are a lot of people overseas watching here, but we have this expression, I can, and there's no can't on American. So we can do what we want to do, when we want to do it, how we want to do it, and we don't have, the only restrictions we believe that we have as Americans, as a free people, are in our heads. We could actually do a lot more if we don't wait for anyone to make it possible. This is one of the beauties of the way a Christian can live. You don't wait for some great leader to tell you that it's okay now to do something that you want to do. You just do it anyway. And this is the way we have always lived, and this is the way I've lived in my home. If there's something that's bothering me at home, maybe the way a room is arranged, maybe the colors of the curtains, maybe something that's just a corner that's bothering me or something, I'll sit there for a while and wonder why something doesn't happen, and then I'll realize if it's to be, I'm going to have to be the one that will have to do it. So you can change whatever you want to change. You can do what you want to do. And the home has this wonderful freedom because you aren't working for a corporation that limits you for using your creativity and for being happy with your work at home. When you work for someone else, it's not the same. You're limited by the restrictions of whatever you're working for. And although you may use your talents, it's not the same as in the home, because in the home you can turn everything into what I call profit. It's a type of capital. And capital in the homemaking world is what you can do with your hands, and what you can do with your mind, and what you can do with your voice, and what you can do with the way you dress, and the way you fix your house. And it's almost what we used to call in homeschooling delight learning. It's delight living. You look for delight, and you look for ways to fix things and overcome things and make things better, make things work better, make things cleaner, healthier, make yourself happier, and you start collecting this joy, and pretty soon it spills out. And so uh, I really want to emphasize too how important your appearance is, because that can be the thing that will pull you down personally yourself. Every time you walk past a window or a mirror and you're not happy with your appearance, that feeds your mind something negative, and then that might translate into your work at home. So we want to work excellently. We want to do what's excellent. And so I would suggest that if you want any good encouragement, to summon up the courage to be encouraging to others, even if you're having a hard time. Learn to look on the upside, the bright side. Leave others encouraged. And so with our, also I want to explain a little bit about our country when to people that are looking from overseas, and because a lot of people don't quite understand our enthusiasm or our attitude. But the big difference, I think, is that we believe that as a person, it's just like in the churches of Christ. We believe that when you have obeyed the gospel, you are the church. Wherever you go, you represent the church. You are the church. You're part of that body. So you are the church. So people gathering together, they are the church. Well, it's the same with our country. You are the country, and you represent the country, and you want to put it in a good light. And it's the same with the family and the home. You want to put your home in the best light possible, and you don't air your dirty laundry around and complain, because not only does it depress other people, but it lowers their opinion of you, and then you'll always feel inferior. So you talk on the upside and the bright side, and how things can be fixed and how things can be done, and it's just amazing how much it helps. And if you're a mother and you're always on the negative side, and your children learn that you always say no to everything, that can have a non-can-do spirit. What you would do is, even if things you think can't be done or shouldn't be done, you'll say, I'm not sure we can do that, but I will certainly consider it, and I'll think about it. Instead of harshness, it's better to leave people feeling happy than unhappy and punished all the time. And so I want to leave you with this. I'm hoping to speak a little longer today, and I have a story to tell you. And this is kind of a disjointed little video today, but I'm hoping to speak at least 30 minutes or more so that you can use it and get something done. And please leave me a comment on my blog, where I'll leave a link, as to what all you did, what all you were able to do while you were listening to me, and anything in my speech that stood out to you, so that I'll know what's effective. And so I wanted to tell you a story of what you want to do. What I want to do is be relevant, and it's very hard because people tend to group with something that looks more flashy, someone who's famous, someone who has written a book. And one of the most, I would say, discouraging things is watching young people get their advice from other young people. And they totally dismiss people with experience and people with success who had success in their lives or success in the home. And so they get together, maybe online, with other young people, and they raise their children according to what other people are saying, and it might not be right for them. They might be leaving behind family traits and different things that their particular family needs. So I wanted to just give you an illustration. I don't know if it's actually going to compare, but we had talked about figures of speech in the past. Excuse me, I'll go get my paper. We talked about figures of speech and comparisons in the Bible. And the reason that I used them is I wanted to show you how we can use figures of speech to give life and give conversation more meaning and a deeper understanding. And that's what the purpose of figures of speech was for. In fact, in the Bible, a couple of times it said, which is an allegory, when they're making a comparison. And I believe it was in 1st or 2nd Peter where it says, a like figure, meaning figure of speech. So I wanted to just do a comparison of something here about how we sometimes ignore the very thing that would help us because it doesn't seem to be significant. I'll tell you this story just from my homeschool memory and teaching, and it might not all be completely accurate, and I can't even give you the year this happened, but I would say it would probably be, it was in the Victorian era. It's a bit of history. In the Victorian era, when Queen Victoria and England were proudly entering the exploration era of the world, and they had ships and they went anywhere and they explored and they made maps and they made great strides in exploring and in science. And there was a quest at the time to look for what was called the Inside Passage, which was a like a river that went between that went through Canada all the way across from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean, and you'd end up somewhere in Seattle or Vancouver and come out the other end. And apparently some people had made it, but England wanted to go down in history as having opened up the Inside Passage, because it would have meant great things for trade. It meant you wouldn't have to go all the way around a continent to trade. You could just go through this country. And I'm just loosely telling you this story. Please don't expect me to be like 100% accurate on dates and other details. But Sir John Franklin was the captain, and he took a crew, and they attempted to find the Inside Passage. But what they had not done was studied the weather patterns. You know, every 10 years the weather changes and it'll warm up or it'll freeze, and there's freezing and there's warming. Every 10 or 20 years things change. And so he took his crew and he headed for the Inside Passage, and they got in it, but then it froze, and the ship was frozen inside this passage, and they couldn't go anywhere, and they were there with just what food they had and supplies they had. But they were scientists, and they had supplied this boat with a wonderful amount of things that would help them to survive as they went through this Inside Passage. But one thing is that they began to get frostbite, and they began to get sick, and they began to starve. And one thing that they overlooked was that the Eskimos and the Indians of the area saw their plight and came and offered help. And it didn't occur because they were looking at the current scientific studies and situation. They tended to overlook these people because they looked primitive, and they were wearing sealskin coats, and but they were not frostbitten, and they were not starving, and they were not sick, and they didn't have disease. And they had homes that were very protective against the elements, and they offered help, but the seamen did not want. They said they were going to, they were all outfitted on this ship, and part of it, I think, was this national pride that, we are doing it this way, and it's a ship, and overlooked the old ways that would have helped them. And I think a lot of times women do this too, and like I said, it's rather disturbing to see how they jump on board looking for other women who have children the same age, and they want to get hints and tips from them instead of looking at the ancient ways and the old ways, and the way that maybe a successful homemaker who is of a certain number of years is. They aren't vibrant to them. It was the same way with Sir John Franklin and his crew. These natives did not look successful or significant, but they were thriving. And they had had experience, and they had generational experience, and they were doing what worked for that climate and that time. And so if we don't want to fail in the home, you're going to have to start looking for some things that have been successful in the past. And of course, I'm not saying go and wash your clothes the way they used to in the 1800s, but look for things like, there's a book someone asked me about books, and there is a book that you can get that was written by a woman who used to be a lawyer and became a homemaker. And she writes in this book how much more interesting homemaking is, yet in many ways more challenging. And she wrote a book called Home Comforts. I don't know who the author was, but she goes through different sections of how to about linens and dishes and just making the house a place of comfort and cleanliness and sanitation. And just, I remember she had a section on bedding that was real interesting. She had found out which bedding was the best, it gave you the best rest, natural fibers, things like that. If you want to go and find that book. The other book that I had suggested previously was Linda Lichter's book, The Benevolence of Manners, which is also under the title Simple Social Graces. And she had gone through the Victorian era almost with a fine-tooth comb and looked at letters and diaries and the newspaper articles and magazines of the era to try to find out more about their lives. And she had divided it into sections like what they ate, how they cooked, how they raised their children, their marriages, and why their marriages lasted, and things like that. And she had found a lot of these things from that era. And so, you know, you can learn a lot from that, and don't learn so much from your peers as you do from success of the past. Although it's nice, you know, it's a temptation. We all like to have friends our age, don't we, who have the same experiences we do. But don't rely only on them, and be multi-generational. Have an interest in all eras, all types of ages, and people of different experiences, and especially the homemakers, because they are a varied group. We are not a group. We do not operate in a group, and we don't have support meetings, and we don't have anything. We just can't. We cannot always get away at the same time, and we need to be paying attention to our homes. And that's why I'm doing these videos, as I thought, well, that might be nice to listen to something while you're working. And everybody has their own pace and their own standard, but we don't operate in a group. And so we're probably not even recognized as any particular force, important thing. But now I want to go to finish this paper I was reading to you about figures of speech. And these are figures of speech in the Bible. And the reason I'm using them in the Bible, because we use lots of figures of speech in the home and with our children and with each other, because they make life interesting. They make you laugh. They're important. And things that we studied last time, things about irony, hyperbole, which is great exaggeration, and personification, and paradox. That's not two doctors, kids. A paradox is a figure in which the opposite are seemingly affirmed of one and the same subject. For instance, Matthew 10:39, he that findeth his life shall lose it, and he that loses his life for my sake shall find it. Or, when I am weak, then I am strong. And so a paradox in ordinary life, we can use phrases and statements that seem contradictory, but they actually bring out the meaning in something. And the parable. Now we'll come to the parable. That is a figure of speech. Those stories that Christ told that were parables were not necessarily things that actually happened, but they were common things that he made a story out of. For instance, there were 46 parables Jesus taught, the parables of Jesus. And the parable of the sower was one of them. You know, the sower went out to sow seed, plant seed. And some of it fell on the rocks, grew up quickly, but died just as quickly. And some of it was planted on fertile ground and grew. And some of it was carried away by the wind or the birds. And the parable of the sower. And it's an earthly story with a heavenly meaning. And they were created out of everyday things, like the prodigal son is a parable. They're created out of everyday happenings that we recognize to teach us spiritual meanings. So although these things might not have actually happened, and Christ was not talking about a particular person. They were common things that did happen. Like the woman who swept the floor looking for a lost coin, and how that related to the spiritual life. And so that was the last of what I had. There are a couple of more, but they're a little bit more complicated, and so I am not going to read those. But you could also look up figures of speech in the Bible online, and you can also look up common figures of speech we use in everyday language that we use, and you'll find that they are interesting. They make life interesting. And we used to have in our home what's called Bible speak, and that is if we had a scripture that appealed to us to use. For example, if you were expecting a bill in the mail that you dreaded, and you thought maybe it was going to be more than it was, or anything else, you're expecting something that you didn't really want, and it came, you say, "Behold, what I have feared the most has come upon me." And that was a common expression in our everyday language. And we use also other things in our language, and I have discussed this with conversation in the home. We also used literature, but particularly we had Bible speak, and we created our own parables sometimes and our own expressions. And so today, I hope that although this has only been about 30 minutes, you've been able to do something, and I hope that I can get these all written down in one place. I could maybe do a video for an hour, and you could actually accomplish something. So, but until then, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope this has been valuable to you. Please leave me a comment. Tell me what you did while you were listening to this, and what things stood out for you. So until then, God bless you, and don't forget to pray. Don't forget to dress properly. Don't forget to create your home in a way that you will like it, that you will like to be there, that you'd rather be there than anywhere else, that you actually, when you have to go out and do your errands and get things, that you just want to fly home because you're so anxious to get home. That's my goal for myself and for you. So I hope you have a lovely day. Please, please leave a comment on my blog. Thank you and goodbye.